Small island developing states are on the front line of the climate crisis. One of the most pressing challenges we face is sea level rise, which threatens much more than just our environment. Rising seas also threaten the existence of our islands, and they threaten our survival as nations. This brings immediate challenges: food security, displacement of communities from their homes, and in some cases from their countries. Many of our economies and livelihoods depend on marine sources, but the ongoing erosion and degradation of our maritime space and coastal areas have already begun to harm us. Access to fishing is becoming harder, beaches for tourism are eroding, and coastal agricultural land is being degraded. These changes are putting immense pressure on our ability to provide enough food for our people. They also raise serious questions about whether we can realize the potential of the blue economy, that is, using our marine resources for sustainable economic development. To tackle these challenges, small island states, including Antigua and Barbuda, have turned to international law as a way to achieve climate justice. In October 2021, Antigua and Barbuda, together with Tuvalu, an island in the Pacific, took the initiative to establish the Commission on Small Island States and International Law, COSIS. COSIS's mandate is to use international law to help small island developing states fight for climate justice. We did this because we were frustrated with the lack of progress under the COP process and the Paris Agreement. We are among the greatest victims of climate change, including sea level rise. We have everything to lose. We cannot afford to wait until our islands are reduced to rocks by rising seas. We have to act now, especially because there is no international law that obligates any state to accept large groups of people from disappearing nations. We have to be concerned when, due to the actions of others, our countries can no longer sustain our populations and our people become climate refugees. COSIS made a bold and courageous request for the first ever advisory opinion on climate change from the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS. We asked for clarity on the obligations of all countries under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea to protect oceans from the harmful effects of climate change caused by greenhouse gas emissions. 40 states and international organizations took part in the ITLOS proceedings. In May 2024, in a historic and unanimous decision, 21 judges supported COSIS's position. They confirmed that greenhouse gas emissions are marine pollution and that states must act to protect the marine environment following the science to prevent catastrophic harm. While advisory opinions aren't binding, they provide influential and definitive interpretations of states' obligations under international law. They also contribute to the development of customary international law and carry significant authority. Thanks to the daring actions of small states, we now have an advisory opinion that will likely influence how other international and national courts address climate change. In April 2024, Antigua and Barbuda, through COSIS, appeared before the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to give evidence in support of a request by Chile and Colombia for an opinion on the impacts of climate change on human rights. COSIS has also made written submissions to the International Court of Justice, which is currently considering an opinion at the request of the UN General Assembly. One of the key questions before the International Court of Justice is the legal responsibility of countries that have caused significant harm to others due to their greenhouse gas emissions. The ITLOS opinion will play a critical role in this International Court of Justice case. There is no doubt that the consequences of doing little or nothing about global warming and sea level rise are already dire for our region in the Caribbean. They will become even more serious unless action is taken now. That is why small states must use international law to tackle the impacts of climate change, rising seas, shifting borders, threats to food security, and the displacement of our populations. By the time major greenhouse gas emitters act to save themselves, which they will have to do eventually, our islands may already be reduced to mere rocks, unable to claim nationhood or to sustain our people. We must be bold in using international law to protect ourselves, because those responsible for the harm aren't stopping, but hitting their wealthy coal and gas and oil producing companies with a lawsuit might just cause them to act at last. International law is our armor and our shield. We must use it in our defense.